Hello, third through fifth grade teachers. I thought I would bring to you just 5 go-to fiction reading conferences that you might do. Sometimes we have so many that we could do, it's sort of hard to sort through it all. So let's say you walk up to your student and they are in the first third of their book. What kind of a reading conference could you do? The first one that you could do is just a preview conference. And we teach kids to preview books from the beginning, kindergarten, and they don't do that independently. So one thing that a preview conference is good for is just reinforcing previewing and getting kids to do that and modeling that with them. Of course, you're going to be using the back blurb or the jacket cover to have them read through it. You could even take that opportunity to do a quick running record while they're reading the back and noticing all kinds of issues, their word solving, their fluency, whether it feels like just right book for them. And then after they've read the book blurb to you, you could take that conference in a lot of different directions. You could talk about the characters and just discuss what do they already know about the characters. After they've read the back blurb to you, you'll know a little bit about the characters and it'll give you a little leg up and you'll be able to dig in and have a little conversation. So a preview conference could be great for starting a discussion about what do they already know about a character. Have they gotten anything out of the first third of the book that they're reading that they could tell you about the character? They could discuss the problem with you by, early in the book, they are figuring out what the problem is. Is there more than one problem? Do they anticipate that there's going to be another problem? So you could talk about that also. Now, you don't have to talk about all of these in the same conference, right? So you could just talk about the characters or just talk about the problem, obviously. And then another direction you could take this preview conference is you could have them anticipating the theme. What kinds of themes or issues are coming up that they might develop into an actual theme. So another kind of a conference that you could have when your students are in the first third of their book is speed bumps. And you're probably familiar with speed bump conferences. Speed bumps are nothing more than a post-it at the end of a chapter. Does anyone have a student that kind of motors through the whole book and that can't really talk about it in the end? So speed bumps are a great way to get them to breathe, take a minute, reflect. Speed bumps can also be really good for volume and stamina. So read to the next speed bump in the next 20 minutes or whatever. But it can be a way of goal setting for them too. You can use the speed bumps. Often I like to write on the Post-it. If I'm in a conference with a student and we're putting a speed bump in there, I might ask them to do something specific. So they might stop and jot at a speed bump, Post-it's already there, to do a retell or to summarize in a very short amount of time and space. If kids have to stick to the Post-it, they can't write a lot, and that's great. But other times you might want kids to push past retell, and at their speed bump, you might want them to tell you what they're thinking. And that can be a great way to get them to kind of move past just the plot. But a speed bump can be any focus that you want. Are you working on, is your unit working on mood, feeling? Are you working on understanding how to put pieces together to synthesize? That could be something that you could work on too. So any focus will work with a speed bump. They're pretty convenient. But let's say that you walk up and your student is like maybe a whole halfway through the book or even more. You could build a theory. Your conference could be around building a theory. So all that this is showing you that I know you can't read, it's just a series of Post-its that students might have written. And to pull out some Post-its that have something in common. So these Post-its happen to be about a girl and her dog. And look across those Post-its and build a theory. You might build a theory about the character. You might build a theory about the theme. You might build a theory about even a rich prediction. So building a theory is a great thing to do. And when you sidle up next to your student, or you Zoom with them, or you talk with them at 6 foot distance, when they start looking at those Post-its and looking at what they've actually got, when you start looking at that, you'll be able to see, what do they need to work on more? And that's the next kind of a conference that you could do with them. Your conference could be to teach them to see more when they're reading. So a lot of times kids get kind of stuck and their jots all start to look the same. So one of the things that you could do is sort the jots around story elements. Maybe you just sort it by character. Here are all the jots on character, all the jots on setting, all the jots on theme, whatever. And ask them to take a look at that. Like, what are they really noticing? What are they paying attention to? Are they really paying attention to character? Are they really paying attention to plot? Like, what element are they holding on to a lot? And then let's try to move them off of that and onto something a little bit different. What could they be looking at more carefully? Maybe you really want this student to start looking at symbols, or you really want this student to start looking at the setting. So having them sort their jots is just a great way for them to physically, concretely see what they really are noticing in the text. And then the last, number 5, thinking about theme, pushing your kids to think about theme. Some kids really need that. One of the things that you could do is brainstorm common themes in your classroom or in small group. And then with your student in the conference, try a sentence frame. What is the author trying to teach me about honesty, whatever? And if the student can then start with that sentence frame, the author is trying to teach me, that might help them get going a little bit more and kind of move into theme a little bit more and stay away from some of the cliche things that kids say when they're talking about theme. So those are 5 go-to conferences, a couple for when you walk up to them and they're in the first third of their book, and a few for when they might be further along, although you could talk about theme when they're in the first third as well, but they just might have more ideas later on in the book. All right, I hope that's helpful to you. Good luck with your conferences.